Hello. Thank you for coming. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about taking chances and how they can lead to adventure. We're going to be talking about taking chances in the corporate world and also in our personal lives as well. And how taking chances actually can lead to amazing adventures. And so we'll be talking about that along with some true stories and some inspirational songs because of the stories. So first off, if you don't know me by now, some of you don't, my name is Stephen Spring, and my partner in crime, he couldn't be here today. His name is also Steve, and his name is Stephen Dimmick. And we are originally from Rochester, New York. It's actually a suburb of Rochester, New York. And we're from a place that you might have heard of before, Buffalo. Not too far from Buffalo, about an hour away from Buffalo. And unfortunately, Buffalo's been in the news because of some tragedies. But Buffalo's actually known for other things as well. For example, snow, bad weather, buffalo wings, and of course, the Buffalo Bills. We couldn't leave them out. And so we are still hoping one day that they'll win the big one, win the Super Bowl. But we just keep on hoping and seeing what's going to happen every year when the new season comes around. Because it always seems like they always find a new way to lose, and you guys all know what I'm talking about. But right now, I live in Houston, Texas, and my colleague still lives in Western New York. I've been in Texas for 13 years now, and I always felt, though, that when I moved to Texas, I felt like I could finally get a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots, because I always thought they were pretty cool. But you know, as soon as you move here, you know, it's sort of a little bit on the fake side. If I got them right away, I almost feel like I would have to earn my cowboy boots and cowboy hat. But I still feel like I have not earned it yet. Maybe one day, because where we're from, actually, we never really had any cowboy hats in our area. We never really saw people with cowboy hats. Except for one time. There was one time when people did have cowboy hats. It was during that urban cowboy movie craze some years ago. I mean, everybody had a cowboy hat. You guys probably might remember that wherever you guys are from in America. It probably didn't hit as hard as it did here, you know, over in Scandinavia or other places. But still, that's pretty much where that all happened, you know, the cowboy hat craze. But I always didn't live in Texas. I've lived in many different places. 2 days after graduation, I actually moved to Norway. And you might be wondering, how does a guy from New York end up going to Norway? Well, I actually sold my winter car right after high school, and for $500 of my Grand Prix, and then I headed out to Norway. And so I had to take a chance of adventure, because there wasn't a lot of people that I knew in my school at the time that actually would take that kind of chance. Many people might not ever move out of the country, and so I just had to do it. But the reason why I was able to do that is because we had an exchange student in my school. And I went over to visit this exchange student, and her best friend became my girlfriend. So that's what happened. So I ended up going there, and this place was quite amazing, because Norway's quite a special place. It's quite a long and big country, and it's quite vast between the north and the south. And so I moved to a place 500 miles north of the Arctic Circle and by the Russian border. And in this place, there was pretty much no trees. There was like 24 hours of sunlight, 24 hours of darkness. Like right now, it's actually pretty much 24 hours of sunlight right now. And but I just checked with some friends. It's only 4 Celsius, 40 right now. But they love it up there, and a lot of people, they wish, of course, they had warmer weather, but it's still an amazing place, because I'll never forget the very first time I was there during the winter time. And after my first job, I was actually working at a fish factory at the time, and I remember one day particular, it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and the sun just barely came up, and you couldn't really see it, and before you knew it, it was gone, like not even probably an hour. And so then it gradually totally disappeared, and you didn't see the sun for probably 2 months. And so it was quite isolated up there, and it's quite amazing, because it can get pretty bad up there in the wintertime, because a lot of people, like we talked about Buffalo and Rochester, everyone talks about their snow there, but the snow that we would get in New York is nothing compared to the snow that you would get up in northern Norway, because in this place where you actually, where you would drive to get to the city that I'm talking about, way up there, there was only one road in and one road out. And so it's pretty much, you're stuck there in the snow if you can't get to this gate, because up there you have to follow the snow plow, and there is like no trees, and you just have to follow on top of the mountain, and the snow plow will actually sit there and count how many people are traveling with them, so they know in case somebody gets stuck in the snow, so that they know that they have everybody accounted for, because actually people can die up there, and there has been people that have died, who've actually frozen to death up there because it's just been so cold. And up there, you don't know where to drive except for these little orange pins that they have on the side of the road, because you literally have snow drifts probably 15, 20 feet high sometimes. And so it's amazing going up there at that time. But if you don't get to the gate in the wintertime at a certain time, then you're in trouble, because you will have to wait until the next day to go over the mountain. Unless you're one of my friends, one guy I know, and many of you guys tuning in might know this guy too. We'll call him, his first name Carl. And so he actually one time went to the gate, and the gate was closed, so he said he had to get home. And so he lifted the gate and drove over the mountain, and everything was going good until he hit 12 reindeer just sleeping in the road, and he killed 8 of them. And what happens up there is that you have to pay for every reindeer that you kill, and so it's quite a different situation, because all the reindeer are actually owned by the Lappish people up there. So you have to pay the money to those guys when you kill one of their reindeer. But anyways, up there, I didn't always live up there. I actually moved down to the south part of Norway after my relationship with that girl ended, the Norwegian girl, my girlfriend there, and we were together for some years, and I ended up living down in South Norway, and which is pretty much almost like the same distance from New York to Florida. It's such a long country, and so it's pretty much almost a few thousand miles distance. And so when I was down there, I built a new life down there after my relationship with the Norwegian girl, and so I got this notice that I had to go to the police station. So I go to the police station, and I had to get my work permit renewed. And so I go and talk to the police, and the police officer in South Norway in Oslo says, you're not allowed to be here anymore. And I'm thinking, why? Because you're no longer in a relationship with a Norwegian anymore. And I said, well, I even speak the language and everything like that. And he goes, it doesn't matter. You have to go. And so he gave me my deportation papers, and I had to leave in, I think that was like in a March, April time, and I had to leave by July. And so I tried to fight it, and it just, it wouldn't go anywhere, me fighting it. So the best I could get with my lawyer was that I had to go back to America and reapply for my work permit. And I had to talk to my boss because I had a pretty good job in Oslo, and I had to give up my job, I had to give up my apartment, and so I told my boss, I said, boss, I said, if I get my work permit back, I promise I'll make it up to you when I come back. I'll work for free for you for 1 month. I told him that, and he said, no, that's okay. Just go over there and get your work permit. And so I actually did get my my papers to be deported, and I ended up going to the airport after my going away party, and I was at the airport, and I remember seeing somebody that I knew, a famous person actually. I go, wow, that's B.B. King. It's the blues legend, B.B. King. And I thought, well, since I'm here, I might as well talk with him. And so I go up to him, because I always wanted to talk to someone who's famous and ask him, since they've been around the world, what's some of the most amazing and most beautiful places that they have seen? And so I go, B.B., what's some of the most amazing places that you've seen since you've toured the world and you've seen everywhere? And he goes, well, one time he was with U2. He was touring with U2, and Bono took him to this island off the coast of Australia. I don't remember what island it was, but he said that it was some amazing island that he said it was so beautiful, and he said it was just amazing there. But he said the next best, most beautiful place, believe it or not, was Hawaii. And he said that Hawaii was just so far away from the homeland or from the mainland that he just couldn't live there, because if you've ever taken a trip to Hawaii, it takes hours. Like, for example, from Texas directly to Hawaii, it's just an 8-hour flight. And so he just said he couldn't do it because he had his businesses, he had House of Blues, he had all these other things going on, so he just couldn't be that far away from his businesses. And so then he asked me, well, what are you doing here? And well, I was really sad, and I told him, I said, well, today I'm being deported. And he goes, well, I'm sorry to hear about that. And I told him, yeah, I had to give up my job and everything, and I have to go back. So then we started talking about other things, and then at the very end, he puts his hand on my shoulder when we left, and he goes, son, just remember, when you go back to America, they can never kick you out. And I thought at the time, it was actually quite comforting, because if you've ever been deported, which you probably haven't, it's a really bad feeling that you got to be deported. I mean, it's just a really bad feeling that you got to go. But I had to follow the rules. I had to go, and so I thought that was quite comforting in a way, because I didn't think of it until many years later, believe it or not, to think that the king of the blues, BB, was giving me comfort during my blues. And to think he was comforting me, not with his music like he typically does. It was just him being a human and caring about someone else. And so I'll never forget that about BB, and how he said all those nice words to me. But what's so interesting about that is that when I went back to America, I actually did get my work permit back through the Norwegian embassy, and I had arrangements to start work again in Norway. But on my way back to Norway, I did something different. I actually got a better deal going through Finnair, going to Finland and to Sweden and then to Norway. So I said, well, since I'm in Finland and in Sweden, I might as well talk to some of my friends there and just visit and see how they're doing. So I go to Finland, meet some friends there, and then I take the boat over from Finland to Sweden. They have this nice cruise ship that you can go across to overnight, and it's really nice. It goes from Helsinki to Stockholm. And so then I meet my friend Kai in Stockholm, and I meet him and his sister, and I meet somebody else. I meet this girl from Finland who becomes my wife. And it just totally caught me out of left field. It caught me off guard. And so this year we've been married for 20 years. And so what the interesting thing is that if I did not get deported, I would never have probably met my wife. Because it was sort of a fluke, our meeting at that time. And, because you know how people meet at different times? A lot of times it's just ships passing in the night. You just never know if you're going to actually meet somebody under the same circumstances. So basically, it would never have happened. I would never have met my wife if I was not deported. So when I think about all these experiences and like, for example, and how it connects to certain things that we might face like in the corporate world. Like, for example, let's say you have a job promotion, or maybe you have to move to another city because of the job promotion, or you have to move because of a company merger. But what's so interesting about that is that if you move because of those situations, you never know what your life will be like. It's like you never know. You might meet your future husband or wife, or you might meet somebody you had no clue. You would never, ever in your wildest dreams think that you would meet this person. So you just never know. So that's the lesson that I learned from these experiences, is that never be afraid to take a chance, because you just never know, because taking a chance can lead to an adventure. And I have to say that all these experiences that I've been through and everything actually have brought me onto an interesting adventure, and so when I put all this together, it actually has influenced this first song that I'm going to do and that I wrote about all these things. It actually is called Life, and it's also to you guys too, because we just never know what our life will be like in the future, and that's pretty much what the song's about. In the start, in my heart, you will never know where it goes. No one knows where my life will take me. Do you feel it too? Do you feel it too? Life just flies on by, another day gone to the sky. Do you feel it too? In the star, in your heart, you will never know where it goes.
No one knows where your life will take you. Do you feel it too? Do you feel it too? Life just flies on by, another day gone to the sky. Do you feel it too? You don't know what life will put you through. There's no way we all can know,
That's for sure.
Spotlights dim and fade away, fade into another show. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum.
Life. Yeah, we definitely don't know what lies ahead. So we come this far in the program. We actually, this is the part where we talk to Mr. Stephen Dimick, even though he can't be here, but we'll still introduce him and talk about him. And well, Mr. Stephen Dimick, I actually met Steve back in February 1988. I was just 16 years old and still in high school. I was a junior in high school at that time. And I remember looking at an ad in the paper, and it was for a bass player. And of course, I didn't play bass at that time. I played guitar in my high school band. And so we played for some years in my high school band. We played dances, we played a lot of different places, and our band was pretty much broken up because of the guys. Most of the guys actually went to college. So I was just pretty much by myself. I was thinking, what am I going to do? So I actually saw this ad, and I had to take a chance. There it is again. I had to see what was going to happen if I took a chance and just called, because I'm just a kid, and these people that I'm calling are actually adults and doing this for real and actually making real money. And I thought, I just want to just see what happens. What do I got to lose? Take a chance, right? So I talked to my parents first, get their blessing on it. And they said, yeah, no problem. Because they knew how serious I was about music, and they knew how, they trusted me that I'm not going to be some troublemaker and cause a lot of issues with driving drunk or something, because I'm sitting there playing at these bars. So I got their blessing, and so I actually called the guy, Steve, and I started talking with him, and we hit it off, and I actually came down for an audition. And I remember the audition. I remember being so nervous, sitting there waiting outside to go in there and just to play these songs, play with a real band that was working. That was quite intimidating in a way. And they were a great bunch of guys. We hit it off good, and then they said, hey, we need to speak alone, and so can you leave? And I said, yeah, no problem. I go outside. And so then I come back in, and they say, you got the job. I go, wow, great. And so they say, hey, but we got a gig in 6 weeks in March, and you need to learn 60 songs. 60 songs, and so I'll never forget that, and so 60 songs in that quick period, and it was really cool, because I'll never forget that. You never forget your first real gig, and I'll never forget playing in. It wasn't like a huge place or nothing, but that place will always be stuck in my mind, of the very first show that I ever did for 4 actual people. So we end up playing all different places, and in New York we played weddings, we played bars, we did all these other things, and so I actually told the guys, that, I actually told the guys that I was older than I was because I didn't want to lose a job, which was not really a good thing to do. Because what happened was in June came around, and then they started saying, "Hey, congratulations, you're going to graduate." And I felt bad, and I said, "No, I'm sorry, guys. I actually lied because I wanted to get the job, and I didn't want to lose it because of my age." And so then the drummer Jim said, "You didn't have to lie. We knew that you were good enough and you could play with us." And so I said, "Oh, well, that was comforting. I didn't have to lie, And so that's a lesson for us today, also in the corporate world. Like when you're going for a job, we definitely have to be so honest, because especially now with social media, they'll find everything out. If you say anything that's not exactly true and you're trying to build yourself up, and that's not exactly true. So that's a lesson, and of course that's the right thing to do. We should all be honest anyways. So we start playing, and we started to get a little serious, and so then we changed drummers because we were actually going to take a chance, and we were going to go to LA and try to get a record contract. And so we had a new drummer at that time, and we were preparing songs for the studio, and we actually did this one song that Steve, my colleague, wrote, and he actually brought it to our practice one day, and we arranged it and got it all ready for the studio. And I'll never forget, that was a very special moment as well, being in a real studio, the real official studio, because at that time, not everybody had home recording studios. Not like today. So anyways, I will play the song that we did on that day. On that day, it was I think it was in October or something like that of 88 of that year. And it was a really nice song, and it's sort of funny. It's called 16, and what the weird thing is that I was 16, and Steve Dimick, the writer, he was reflecting back to the days when he was in school, and it's sort of like a cautionary tale as well, because it's actually almost connected to the what if. What if you did ask that girl out back in school? You just never know what would happen. And so this is sort of like a cautionary tale about taking a chance. That's what it is to me. Of course, you talked to Steve, and I remember asking him about the inspiration about it. He was saying it was specifically, I think he said it was about some teacher he might have had a crush on or something like that. We'll have to check with him when he joins the show another time. But okay, so here it is. Here's a song that we did that day. Oh, an acoustic version.
There's a certain feeling I get when I'm with you, a feeling I can't forget when I'm with you. My heart takes its own special course, brings me back to the days of my youth. Just to be 16 again, when love meant something and friends were true friends. Just to be 16 again, when I fell in love with you again. Walking down the hall, holding your hand. Will I walk down the aisle like this again? The weekends were our special nights, together till the morning light. Just to be 16 again, when love meant something and friends were true friends. Just to be 16 again, when I fell in love with you, when I fell in love with you again.
So that was 16, and we recorded that and another song that we both co-wrote together, and we really had some really big dreams at that time, and things changed. Well, remember the graduation day that I talked about earlier? Well, the graduation day came, and then 2 days later I went and moved to Norway. So the agreement I had with the band was that I would be gone for the summer and the fall and part of the winter, maybe, I think it was. And so then I would come back. And so that's what I did. I moved over and I came back, and I brought my girlfriend with me at that time, and because she, and so she was with me, and she had to unfortunately leave and go back to Norway. And I had a choice. What do I do? Do I stay in America, or do I go back and continue the adventure in Norway? And so I actually disappeared and just went to Norway. And I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to talk me out of my decision. And the only person who knew was my uncle, because he drove me to the airport. He was the only person that knew. But everybody was so mad at me. My parents, friends, and even Steve and my other bandmate Billy. And they were all really mad at me because I actually killed everyone's dreams at that time, and just left. But the thing is I was going to come back, of course, but it's so hard to do, that kind of music scene thing in LA, just living part of the time in America. So I mean, they were so mad at me. We had big fights, and even the drummer, he would not talk to me for many, many years. And I tried, and eventually he did come around. It took like 20 years though. But I know we probably could have patched it up way before that, but I knew that, I tried so many times the first few years, I just sort of gave up because sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. But with Steve, the guy, our colleague here, that will be here one day, is that he actually was mad as well, and we actually had some big fights, and we had a big falling out, and we finally got over it though, and that's the key, especially in like the work environment. We know, like at our current work, wherever we are, that there's always going to be disagreements. There's always going to be people who don't get along with other people, and that's just part of the work environment, unfortunately. And so the best thing we can do is stay out of trouble and to try to make peace with everybody, so it's all enjoyable, at least to come to work if possible. So that's the lesson there, and we should always try to make the best possible outcome when there's a bad fight, because you just never know. But when I put all this together and I think of all the places that I've lived and all these people that I've had the pleasure of knowing, many of you people on here today, I would never have met you guys if it wasn't for one event in my life. For example, going back in time, if I never met that exchange student, if I never took that chance, I would never know a lot of you people. My life would be completely different. And so that's the lesson right there, is to always take a chance. And so when I think of all the different people that I've met, like in Norway, Sweden, Finland, England, in Canada, in Florida, in and of course even in Texas. You almost wish that you could live in all those places at the same time, and you can't, of course, because it's just not possible. But so it's always great to think of people wherever you are, because people are important. And when you think of all the people that might have helped you in your career where you're at, we should always remember them. And even people that we worked with before, we should always remember them as well. If the good people you really love to be around and had a good time working with, because you just never know when you might work with them again. Like, for example, like Steve, this guy that's going to be joining me, Steve, my colleague, who would have thought that we'd be working together again after so many years? But that's why it's so good just to keep moving forward, whatever issue we have. But so all these influences and experiences actually influence this next song. And it's called Remember Me. And this song is dedicated to all you guys out there, all you people. And also maybe you guys could dedicate this to someone that you're thinking of at this point in time. So here it is, an acoustic version of it again. So you say you're leaving, off to a place called home. You say you'll write, you'll call on the telephone. It'll be so strange when you're finally gone. I hope someday I'll see you. I feel like something's wrong. Never been good with goodbyes, always tears in my eyes. Never knowing if I'll ever see you again, but I hope you will. Remember me, remember me. Hope you'll remember all the good times we had. All my friends around the world, I dedicate this song. It gets so hard to leave you all. I feel like something's wrong. I've never been good with goodbyes, always tears to my eyes. Never knowing if I'll ever see you again, but I hope you will. Remember me, remember me. Hope you'll remember all the good times we had. Remember me, remember me. Yes, remember me. So, in conclusion, we were talking about taking chances and how they lead to adventure, or how they can lead to adventure. And we also spoke about being forgiving and trying to get past all our issues that we might have in the corporate workplace or with other people in our work environment. And also we spoke about remembering people in our life as well, because we have a lot of people a lot of times that we have to thank, because we would never be where we are right now if it wasn't for these people in our life. So it's always good to remember these people as well. So we should all remember when we're confronted with a choice, that taking chances can lead to adventure. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And we hope that you have a good Saturday. And I hope that you have a good Sunday for some of you people. You're actually already in the Sunday day already. So take care, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye-bye.